Welcome to my web conference on era of engagement and how we got here. You can kind of see the screen on how to make sure you are set up. We're going to go ahead and get started. Please make sure to remove any distractions, turn your phone off, shut your door, put up a sign if you need to. I do have two dogs that are somewhere and hopefully quiet. So if you hear them, I'm sorry. Before we start, just to make sure everything is set up correctly, if you could just raise your hand showing that you hear me. It's down at the bottom there, right here. Perfect. Perfect. And then raise your hand. If you can see quality check up here at the top, that means you see my screen. Good. And then making sure I'm recording this for people who are watching after. If you could raise your hand if you see this red circle, it's red and not white, showing that I'm recording. Down at the bottom, it should be red. It doesn't show that it's red. How about up in the upper right corner? Is it red? Yes, maybe? Yes, okay. Thank you. All right. So, things that you are going to need to be successful for this workshop. One is you're going to want to make sure your annotation tools are on. You can see right here in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little squiggle. If you click on that, once you click on that on your left-hand side, you're going to see a toolbar that looks like this. There's going to be a few times that you will be using those. The next thing, you will need paper and pencil. You're more than welcome to take notes as we're going, and there will also be an opportunity for self-reflection at the end. Finally, if you are watching this virtually, you're going to need the after-class summary open to answer the questions throughout. If you want to print it out, that's fine. Just make sure you have a pencil to fill it out in. So all the information from this is coming from Thinking Collaboratively, and it's from chapter 4. All right, so when we look at old school education, you can kind of look at this picture and the initial thoughts that you have coming up regarding old school education. So that's what the picture is what I envision when I think of old school education. So in the chat here, if you want to open that, when you think of old school education in that picture, you could just type in some words. What comes to mind? And my virtual students, you can just write this in your missed class summary. Old school education. Yes, paper, textbooks, fully in person. Agreed. And old school. Yeah, I agree. It's not, well, here, it's not what this is. New school education. Again, this picture compared to the first, kind of looking at the things that are involved, what the students are doing. In the chat again, look, comparing those two pictures, what do we think about new school education? What comes to mind? No longer paper textbooks. Yes, technology and access. There doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher present. You're correct. And these are all things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk how we got from that old school to the new school learning. So we'll go over the history, developments in education that have brought us to where we are now. So after this workshop, you are going to be able to understand the history and educational developments that led to the era of engagement. So using the raise hand and the raise hand function, if you would like to answer this question here, why do you think it is important to know the history of education? So you can unmute once you raise your hand, and virtual students, you can write this response in your missed class summary. Any ideas on why we want to know? John, what do you think?
I'm just gonna guess that it's knowing the history of if we're going to make improvements, we can make improvements on what has been done. If we,
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I agree. Noah, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, kind of a lot of like what John said. History for me has always kind of meant looking at where we messed up in the past and where we can improve. So seeing what made things better and how we can continue to make things better.
100% agree. Yeah. We learn more from our mistakes. So being able to know what worked in the past, what works now. Yeah, I agree. All right. So the first um, type of education we're going to talk about is distance education. Originally, distance education was a print-based learning package that was mailed out to everyone's home that was doing it. Everyone received things, and there was no way for instructors to provide feedback or to help with misconceptions. Uh, it was not personalized to students' interests, and it didn't change. It was just the same thing, one size fits all. Uh, because of that, the lack of teacher presence, the lack of feedback, the lack of student collaboration, there was a very high dropout rate. So just knowing how distance education started and using those emoticons at the bottom, would that be something you would be interested in possibly learning? Do you think it was a good model back then? Um, I'm gonna guess, yeah. Yep, 2 thumbs down. Agreed. Uh, it was not good. So we tried to make adjustments, and where we went after that was campus-based education, which most of us probably looking at this picture, um, that's what you think of, a lecture room, uh, one professor in front of hundreds of students. Lots of students went into higher education, and that is how they were taught. Students were responsible for learning as much as they could through note taking and listening. Uh, there wasn't much of a difference, unfortunately, between distance learning and campus based education due to the fact that they weren't really tailoring it to the students. Um, so then they tried to revamp it. They learned from their mistakes. They tried to make a shift and they went from passive learning to a more engaged learning that included collaboration and technology. Unfortunately, even with all of that, I know some of us have been in classes, even now, that educators still aren't using the technology that they have available to engage their students more. Um, even knowing from past mistakes, they still weren't doing it. So using the chat feature here, why might, and this is no right, no wrong, why might educators still not be using technology in their classroom, even though they know that it engages uh, their students more? What do we think are some reasons? Yeah, they don't know how. Or they're in districts, and you said additional costs, they're in districts that cannot, or districts, or even higher education, they don't have the funds for it. I agree. All right, so the last, we went from distance education, we went from online learning or campus education, and now we're at online learning. So to move forward, they decided, well, well, what if we integrate both real world and virtual world through online learning? Online learning offers the ability to collaborate, which was what was missing from the other two, and points, and it offers the ability to engage learners regardless of time or distance. Maybe you're going to New York and you need to present something. You were able to do that thanks to online learning. Um, let's see here. Online learning works best when it's integrated with the strengths of both what face-to-face learning offered, which was like engaging the students, collaborating together, and then the preferences that students have and their learning interests that they have. So here, we're going to use the annotation tool, and we're going to use a check mark. Mark the correct answers below. Online learning offers, is it the possibility to collaborate, asynchronous and synchronous time, and engaged learning? And there are more than one answers here. If we can use that check mark. Yep, asynchronous and synchronous, I see. Both, we could be online. John, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not seeing my check mark for some reason.
So if you click on this draw a square shape,
Oh, square
or like
shape.
where it says, yep, and then
And the
scroll
check
down
mark's
and there's
there.
the check mark. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the question was use the annotated check mark to online learning offers the possibility to collaborate.
Yep. And I
No,
see all three are marked there.
yeah, I'm not going to
Good
hold you
job.
up, but yeah.
You're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. No, and that is, it offers all three of those.
Okay.
Um,
There's a check
we are
mark.
able to see your check marks. Wonderful job. It does all three though. The
Right.
asynchronous, synchronous time, that means they're able to work at the same time together right now, or one could be working on it in the morning, one in the afternoon, but thanks to technology, they're able to be in sync and on the same path there. All right, so some takeaways from these three different education models. Distance education failed due to the lack of engagement and feedback. As educators, we need to understand the importance of giving our students feedback. Maybe it is just a simple when you're observing them in class and seeing something they're doing and immediately telling them. Maybe it is a quick little exit slip after what you've done just to say, on a scale of 3, 2, 1, how well did I understand this? But giving the feedback allows them to engage more and then obviously see if they have mastered the content. Um, Another takeaway is we also need to make sure we're providing opportunities for collaboration. Uh, Part of the reason it failed was that they didn't have anyone to get ideas from. So offering opportunities for um, turn and talk breaks or group work is huge. So here, you're going to use that text annotation tool, or my virtual students will write in their missed class summary. And then in the box, just go ahead and type what is a way maybe you could incorporate feedback in a classroom, or how would you offer opportunities for collaboration? It could be ideas I shared, or it could be ideas you have. Um, Maybe it's not even inside the classroom. Maybe it's at your work. What are ways we could do that? Yeah, individual suggestions after a project or exam. I like that. That's a very good way to give feedback. And peer reviews. Yes. Yep. I love doing those. Any other ideas in there? Yeah, quizzes. Quizzes. Yeah. Quizzing what they know. I agree. Awesome. Very good. I like all of those ideas. And I like that you guys have changed your colors in your font. Wonderful job. All right. John, are you good to move on? Or are you typing? I think I see you working.
I didn't mean to raise my hand. Yes, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So the main takeaway from campus-based education was that at first it was not any better than distance education because of how they were teaching. The lecture style, you could see even this picture, like what are you taking from this other than being confused and what you're able to write? And yeah. So as educators, moving away from that lecture style, engaging your students, making sure that they are able to, maybe you teach your lesson and then you give them the opportunity to explore it, or you give them the opportunity to research it. Offering turn and talk breaks to be able to do that. We also need to incorporate technology to better engage and allow the students to collaborate. Um, Ways you can do that, and I'm going to go back here before, sorry, uh, offering e-docs or giving students access to the same file and then allowing them to work on it, whether it's synchronously or asynchronously, is huge. So now I'll move to this assessment. We're going to use that arrow pointer, which is when you see the little arrow, um, go ahead and use that arrow pointer to point out the correct answer below. One way to engage students and incorporate technology in the classroom is, and there are multiple answers here. What do we think? Yep. Providing group work opportunities is one. Those e-docs, different materials online. And then, yep, Noah, I agree. Giving students that turn and talk opportunities. Obviously, only lecture when teaching. No, not good. And then online learning takeaways. It can be successful when students are engaged both synchronously and asynchronously. I know for us, even as adults, it is easier for us to be able to, yes, we can come together synchronously and work on things, but when you have your own time to do, whether you're working in the morning or the afternoon, we're still on the same page. And that's very important for our students as well. We need to make sure online learning, we offer opportunities to collaborate. That is where Google Classroom is huge. All of Google Slides, any of those features you are able to share with multiple students, and they're able to access it both in school, out of school, and in New York, which is wonderful. So here, using the pen tool, which is down on the side, what you're going to do is just go ahead and circle the correct answer. Online learning offers, and I sure hope you don't circle the first one. Perfect. Asynchronous and synchronous time and engaged learning. Yep, it does both of those things. Now, I can promise, like during COVID, online learning offers nothing. Might have been some parents' reactions there, but obviously not done correctly there. So yeah, both of those are the options. All right. So era of engagement, as you can see, all of those past phases in education have helped shape where we are today. Campus-based education reiterated that we needed to be engaged and not just passive learners. Online learning taught us it was possible to collaborate both synchronously and asynchronously. So just to pause, are there any questions before we move on to the poll I have for you about what I have covered? All right, so let's see here. I'm going to open a poll here. We're going to check for understanding and we'll follow along and answer as we go. You should see a poll open up. If you don't see it, let me know. The, yep, distance education resulted in.
Did you open the poll for us to? Because
I
I'm.
did. You should see it on your right-hand side, and it should say,
Oh, I see it. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I see it.
you're okay. It should be in there. It says like polling, I think is and there's 3 questions there. Give you just a few minutes there. Yeah, so wonderful. Awesome. And you guys did perfect on that. Very good job. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And wonderful. Just as a final reflection in your notebook, go ahead, after you log out of here, you can write some of the takeaways you had from this and ones that you're going to implement, hopefully, in your classrooms. Virtual students, this will be in your missed class summary. And I want to thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks for our week 5 workshop. And then virtual students, make sure to submit your missed class summary so that you can receive